evening. Welcome to another episode of Issues, that's current affairs program where we try to dissect issues in the society. And tonight we have the esteemed pleasure of having with us the Director General of the Center for Black and African Arts and Civilization, a renowned public servant and advocate for the creative and cultural sector in Africa. As a moderator, creative artist, and communication strategist, our guest has a unique perspective on the importance of arts and culture in shaping our identities and communities. I am Abdullah Hajia, your host. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Thank you for choosing to stay with us on the program. Now, the Center for Black and African Arts and Civilization plays a key role in making Nigeria a leader in the presentation, promotion, and propagation of African cultural heritage and civilization. We have the Director General of the Center, Aisha Ogi, who will be delving into the world of arts and culture with us on the program. But this is after this time out. Please stay with us. Thank you for joining us right away. I have the privilege of introducing Aisha Ogi, the Director General, Center for Black and African Arts and Civilization, known as CBAC, joining us on issues tonight. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Mr.
And I must say, you are actually representing the arts world and Nigerian culture.
Yes, all the time.
All right. Well, let's begin this conversation by understanding the mandate of the center where you're heading at the moment. I know a lot of Nigerians, yes, from the name Center for Arts and Black Civilization, but let's get to know more about what you do.
Well, the center is a mouthful.
Okay.
The Center for Black and African Arts and Civilization, but we call it CBAC, just to make life easier for many. CBAC is an agency that's a Pan-African agency under the Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism, and Creative Economy. And it is an agency that promotes the spirit of Pan-Africanism, mainly because it came out of Festac 77. If you're aware of Festac 77, it was a festival of African arts and culture that happened in Lagos, Nigeria. And that was what birthed the agency, CBAC. We have all the archival memory from Festac 77. We have the audiovisual unit. We have a museum that houses all the artifacts that came from the 59 Black and African nations that Nigeria hosted. We have a library. We have a children's learning unit that has been supported by UNESCO with donations of books and other items, and of course any other books we get from the global community. We have a research and publications unit also. The agency is here to obviously promote and propagate African arts, history, culture, and civilization. So it's not just about arts and culture, but it's about who we are as Africans.
So beyond the establishments, which you just underscored now, how do you engage? Yes, we know we have the cultures. We know, yes, arts is in Nigeria, is in Africa. So how do we push? How do we promote it?
Well, art is in our blood. I think you can see what I'm wearing.
Sure.
It's items that we've always done historically. The hat on your head is something, it's artistic, it's art. It's someone that sat down and created these designs. But I think what we are losing is that language. Almost everything you have on your hat was a motif at one point that meant something. The same with the designs that we have. It comes with a story, because as Africans we've always been storytellers, whether it's with the talking drum or with our artifacts, and even our day-to-day items like calabashes are designed. These are stuff that we use. Instead of plates, we had calabashes. So art is directly connected to culture. Culture evolves, right, depending on the season. But for us, I think that history of knowing who we were and where we are today is very important. A lot of our history has been changed. There's a lot of misinformation about what Africa is, even as of today. There are people who don't know the development and the growth that is happening within Africa.
So we say charity begins at home.
Yes.
So how have we been able back home here try to engage communities, the people from different nation states that we used to be,
Yes.
to come appreciate this culture, this art that, like you said, mean a lot to us. They communicate a lot to us. So how
Yes.
have we been able to see, oh, guys, we have this thing back home here. Let's own it, let's appreciate it before we even talk about the Africa
Yes.
or we promote it to the outside world.
Yeah, so one of the issues we had with colonialism is it downgraded and pushed back who we were, and we've been adopting a different culture that was not originally ours. We're speaking languages that are not even ours, for example. So a lot of things have changed, and that in itself has guided who we believe we are, and we look down on what we have as inferior. The beauty of today is people are now looking into their identity. They're learning about history. Of course, we're interconnected now with the internet, with social media, with travel. People couldn't travel as fast as they can now. So we're connecting with the world and we're exchanging cultures with music, with film, with our food, with our languages, and of course with what we wear. So it's very important for us as a ministry. This is the first time we've had a ministry that was focused purely on on arts culture. And now tourism has been added back in with creative economy. Tourism obviously cannot be disconnected from culture. Even globally, cultural tourism has been one of the most lucrative for almost all the countries, which is why they preserve a lot of those spaces for the world to come to visit. And Nigeria, under the Renewed Hope agenda, has seen this as a very important aspect, especially for us. Cultural diplomacy is one of our biggest items. Just yesterday, we had an intercultural dialogue, and it was a Pan-African intercultural dialogue where we had over 1,000 guests. And the idea was how do we ensure that as Africans we're connecting? How are we connecting with the African diaspora? We had over 26 countries in the room, and then we're trying to see how we interconnect with each other's culture. How do we use each other's diversity to promote a greater united Africa? With culture, we can understand each other. You learn about people without even having to meet them. So it's very important for that mutual understanding that supports peace, solidarity, trade, cooperation, almost everything you can think of, because the diplomacy comes first before we even meet each other. So as a ministry, we have the National Institute for Cultural Orientation, based on the question that you asked, and their job is to ensure that Nigerians are orientated towards what actual culture means. We have the National Gallery of Art that is pushing on our art. You have the National Council for Arts and Culture, which is more of the traditional institutions, the different emirates, the different kingdoms, right? You have the National Council for Museums and Monuments, National Commission for Museums and Monuments, that is trying to uplift all our museums. We have the National Troupe, which showcases our dance styles and our traditional dances. And of course, the National Theatre that birthed all of us. Because for many of us, we came out of 1977, and that National Theatre was built to host all of these different African cultures in one space. So we are definitely trying to figure out how to ensure that we push even down to the grassroots.
I want to ask this question. I know we're blessed with diverse cultures.
Yes.
Let's take in Abuja here in the FCT. We have about 9 tribes, as indigenous tribes of
More.
the FCT.
We have more.
Good. So, how can the center like yours tap from the richness of our culture here in the FCT, which is Nigeria Center of Unity,
Yes.
to promote it in addition to other cultures we have in other parts of Nigeria?
Okay, so we are Pan-African, right? So the National Council for Arts and Culture handles a lot more of that.
Okay.
We are Pan-African, and the idea is what are the different cultures we have that we can project. A lot of our African cultures have moved across oceans. With slavery, they took our people. Many of them don't remember or know who they are or where they came from. And our job is to ensure we promote all, regardless of what state of origin or what area. We don't see things from the perspective of just the maps that were created for us. So, for example, if I'm going to speak, I'll speak about the Benin Kingdom. I'll speak about the Canaan Empire. I'll speak about the Hausa and the jihads in the Fulani jihads and all these other various things that are borderless. You know, we have cultures that are borderless. And I can say the same about Abuja. The indigenous people of Abuja, they are all around in Kaduna, in Jos, in Niger, all the surrounding states. So it's not really from the perspective of selecting a few. What do we have what do we have in common? What makes us apart? But how can we unite to ensure we understand each other so there are no conflicts, there are no issues, there's no I am better than you. We all should be able to appreciate each other's different cultures. That's our job.
Now, we know, looking at the ministry where you're coming from,
Yes.
we talk about so many components there now. I'm interested in the economy aspect of it.
Yeah.
How has that helped you to be able to realize, probably just beyond rhetorics of talking
Yeah.
and collaboration, how can Nigeria also benefit from what you do?
Yeah, so we're working on the various policies. The minister, Barrister Anatu Musa, has been very solid as to building awareness globally, not just in Nigeria. But apart from that, we're working to upgrade the cultural policy. The IP policy has been upgraded. There are various other policies that we feel interconnect with what we do as a ministry. The tourism policy is also being reviewed. There are many of our mandates that are being reviewed to the global standards. And one of the main KPIs, which is our key performance indicators, is revenue generation and job creation. If I tell you, for example, now, imagine Nigeria decides everything we're going to do has to be in our traditional outfits. What does that do? It automatically gives everybody jobs. The cotton farmers would have to create cotton that would make the clothes that we would wear. The people who are doing the tie and dye create jobs. But apart from that, we're looking at various things. So, for example, we have a program that we're announcing soon called the Pan-African Indigenous Skills Development Program. And our theme for 2025 is African-inspired interior and exterior architecture. And our reason for that is the interior architecture that you see, the chair you're sitting on, the tables, the designs, the art on the wall, it's very connected to jobs. If we say we are sticking to what we already have and we build it from the grassroots to the top to global standards, you've automatically created jobs. Festac is a great example of how you can use culture to create jobs. It was an arts and culture event, but it brought the National Theatre, it brought roads, it brought hotels, it brought accommodations with Festac Town, which was one of the largest satellite towns in Africa. So we no longer see things from the perspective of just events or just dancing or just to, even when you're making a movie. I am a photographer. And because I was a photographer, I needed to have a lighting guy. I needed to have sound if we're ever going to do motion photography. Anyone who decides to do something as an artist is automatically creating jobs. You're going to need a manager. You're going to need people, content creators for your social media, public relations. It connects to so many things. The value chain of culture is beyond what we can imagine. And we are ensuring that we're breaking these issues down into projects that will create jobs for Nigeria. We're already seeing it happen.
As in Nigerian, we've read a lot of, the Goldies First Tax 77 brought to Nigeria.
Yes.
Like you did also alluded to, it was beyond the cultural, glory it brought. We
Yes.
also saw the economic aspect of it, we saw the diplomatic aspect of it.
Yes.
How can we recreate, such, kind of events in this, era where we find ourselves, if actually we can get something like First Tax 77 again?
Yeah, so we plan to reenact Festac in 2027. In 2027, it will be 50 years.
Okay.
So we're working towards bringing back the whole world to Nigeria. The beauty of where we are today is there's a lot of infrastructural growth. We have a lot of hotels. We have a lot of people within the tourism space. Obviously, we know insecurity and other issues are a problem. But that's also where we come in. At the end of the day, if we're able to understand ourselves, a lot of these issues can be fixed. Whether it's interstate, whether it's intercountry, whether it's intertribe, interreligion. Our job is to ensure that how do we use these cultural aspects to make people happy, because obviously arts and culture is something that people enjoy. It doesn't really feel like work when you're within the arts and culture space. Of course, as for young entrepreneurs, it's also something that we're working on to ensure that they can see the value in creating and making money for themselves within that space. But the last, and I think one of the major items that we need to understand is we as Nigerians, whether it's the federal government, the state governments, and now the local governments, have to understand that events are not just something you spend money on. It's actual jobs being created within that period, but it could also be permanent. So we have direct and indirect jobs coming from that can add value to the economy. But that being said, we also have other items that we would plug into when we decide to do events, which is merchandising. We have also that I can keep going on and on about it. But I think the main aspect for us is these events are super important, and we will be bringing the rest of Africa back to Nigeria in 2027.
All right. Well, my guest Aisha Demalgi is still here with us, and she's been giving us answers to some of the important questions we're asking, and I believe we're all learning from her explanation of some of these issues. We'll have more questions to answer, but we'll go on a short break and we'll return continue.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're still watching issues on the Unity Station 98.5 Abuja. Time now to take a breather. When we return, we'll answer more questions with my guest. Thank you for staying tuned with the Unity Station, and the program is still Issues. Now I have my guest, and on the second lap who will be answering more questions on the program. Thank you for rejoining us.
Thank you so much.
Well, from you have said earlier, you seem to be loaded in terms of ideas and policies to execute.
Yes.
But let's ask this question now. What are some of the plans you have in terms of programs in the nearest future, probably also in the long term, plans?
Well, like I said to you earlier, the breakdown of CBAC, which is the agency that I run, there are 48-year-old artifacts, sound, music, film that the world hasn't seen. So, for example, we have over 1,200 vinyl records from authentic Africans from all across the nation, the continent, and we would love the world to have access to that. We have films of over 1,200 also of reel-to-reel recordings of the entire 1 month program, and these included meetings and plans for where Africa needed to be. So, as part of the agenda, African Agenda 2063, it's very important for us to also see how we can connect these things to pushing towards the future. So for us at CBAC, apart from obviously continuing to publish books that add value to the African community, we are partnering with institutions globally, universities, museums. We are partnering with the Association of Francophone and Lusophone Ambassadors. We are partnering with the European Union Cultural Institutions. We're partnering with obviously innovative and tech-focused institutions that will allow us have access and give access to the rest of the world to a lot of this history. But apart from that, we're looking at gaming, we're looking at virtual reality, because the younger generation, today Africa has the youngest population from around the world. So we have to match their energy by ensuring that they're learning through the way they are already learning. When I grew up, we didn't have the internet, right? Today, nobody survives without it. So we're trying to just see how we can interconnect these things, whether it's with the paid program, with the various different events that we have, but within the ministry itself, there's a creative fund, there's a film section. We already have Nigeria Everywhere that is showcasing people from Nigeria and what they're doing. There's Screen Nigeria that is taking our movies to the global community. Even just yesterday, the minister was saying the hope is to ensure that by the next Oscars, we have a Nigerian film, because we just broke the record by having a Nigerian documentary within Cannes Film Festival, and this hasn't happened. So I think there are a lot of firsts that we have ahead between us and the global community, But that being said, we're also looking to work with all of the various federal agencies to ensure that they understand the value of this culture that we have and how they can embed it into their own work so that it can build a better future for Nigerians and Africans.
I want to ask, Nigeria stands to benefit from the activities or what you do at CBAC.
Yes.
Now, how can we fuse that with the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President, who thinks it is important we promote that sector? That was why he created that ministry.
Yes.
How can we fuse what Nigeria stands to get from what you do and the dreams of the president creating a ministry, so that we achieve or realize that?
Well, we're already doing it.
Okay.
I think already Nigeria was seen as the cultural capital of the world when it comes to music and our film and our art and our fashion. There's so many other aspects from Nigeria that the rest of the world, are in love with. We Nigerians have to learn to love it for ourselves. And I think that's one of the reasons it was very important to have this ministry. But that being said, what cultural diplomacy does for you is it opens doors to conversation. When you go into any international meeting, I was special advisor to the Minister of Finance. And the first thing you talk about is, oh, I listen to Nigerian music. Once you say you're Nigerian, or I watched this Nigerian film, or I loved the idea of jollof rice. That's why jollof was something that broke the internet. So cultural diplomacy softens the blow, and it allows people to open up and say, okay, I know a bit about you. Let's see how we can work together. So for us, we already want Nigeria to continue to be seen as that cultural capital, but allowing the president to also use that opportunity to open up conversations for trade, investment, support, exchanges. We would like a lot of Nigerians to be able to explore the world, to go and come back, learn, and add value to the nation. We have Japa syndrome happening now. We want a lot of Nigerians to say, you know what, Nigeria is the place to be. This is where things are happening. And we can see just from Dirty December the amount of people that come to Nigeria. I don't know if you saw the breakdown or the statistics of the amount of revenue that was added to Lagos state government. Imagine we have that in every state in Nigeria. It's part of the renewed hope agenda. That hope where Nigerians will hold that green passport with pride and say, I am Nigerian, I am African. And that is what we are here to do, to help to ensure that our voices are heard and our culture and our culture and traditions are also preserved and promoted.
You seem to have so much to achieve at CBAG and the Ministry of Arts and Creative Economy.
Yes.
What do you see as some of the challenges that you think are militating against the realization of probably a blueprint, a target you think you want to achieve?
Funding. Funding is one of our major issues, but we are seeing a lot of people looking at coming to invest within the sector, especially now that these conversations are happening. Apart from that, we want people who are within this sector. We love to have fun as artists. I'm an artist. Nobody wants to do paperwork. So we want people who have experience within the sector to contribute, to say, this is how we feel things should be done. Even if they use their social media, we're very here and we're open and we're listening. We want the younger people to have a voice to say, this is how we feel things should happen. So the beauty of the ministry itself is we're open to do this. And many of us that are heading these agencies, I hadn't mentioned the National Film Corporation or the Censors Board, are all people who have worked within this sector. I've been earning from the creative sector since I was 20 years old. 20. I'm 45 now. I know the value. I know how important it is and how I've survived off it. And I want to be able to say, the rest of Nigerians, it's so easy. It's such a low-hanging fruit for us. So for me, as Nigerians, as Africans, let's value what we already have. We don't have to look at the rest of the world. We should be able to say, this is what we have and we're going to build it. And that's our hope as a ministry, to ensure that those challenges are pushed to the side. Obviously, the policies were an issue because they weren't updated for a very long time. And those mandates are being upgraded to match the global standards, so we're able to achieve more. We're able to create and connect to innovation and say, okay, for example, I want to tell the history of the Which of the empires should I pick? Help me pick an empire.
Kanem-Borno Empire.
The Kanem-Borno Empire, for example. I heard a story of the Borno Empire going to war with 300 horses. And what was on their back? The saddles were made out of gold. That was how rich the Kanem Empire was. You know, how do you tell that story to a young person? They won't believe it. I wouldn't believe it, right? So imagine you have, like, with AI and with gaming and with VR, we have these things as the aspects that we would use. Imagine our films actually being authentic stories. Today, we know about Thor, God of Thunder. We have that in Yoruba land. So there are many aspects of ours that have also been used to create in other aspects of society. We want our stories told. We want to be the catalysts, should I say, to open up the minds of people to say we can actually do things with this culture that we have.
Well, we wish you well and hope that more opportunities will be created for young, creative Nigerians who will be looking forward to also benefit like you have, done right from, your 20s to date. Now, before we go,
Yes.
how has your partnership with some of these African countries been able to also translate into better opportunities, better collaboration, better diplomacy as far as the African continent is concerned?
Well, we're working on exchange programs where they have strengths, where we have strengths. We exchange and say, okay, I want to come and learn. But to be honest, a lot of them are coming to learn from us. So,
As a big brother.
yes, we are big brother for Africa. So a lot of them are coming to learn from us, but we are also going to these spaces to see. For example, Kenya is strong in tourism, extremely strong in tourism. You look at South Africa, they're really strong in the creative sector also when it comes to infrastructure. So we have a lot that we can do, and we hope to have these exchanges. And the African ambassadors are very happy to come on board to support us too. So we're working together to ensure we have a better Nigeria and a better Africa.
Well, we must thank you very specially, Aisha Demoagi, for coming to talk to us on issues as well as educating us and our viewers out there as far as CBAC is concerned. So
Thank
we wish you the very best as you begin to implement some of these policies and desires to promote, CBAC to the next level.
Thank you so much. I'm really honored to be here. Thank you.
All right. Well, a lot has been said by our guest, and I know we'll pick 1, 2, 3, items from what she has said for us to key into what the CBAC is doing, as well as the Ministry of Arts and Creative Economy. On that note, we want to thank you for investing your time with us. Let's do it same time, same station when we bring you another topic on the program issues. I remain Abdullah. Thank you.